Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. We're going to delve into something a little bit deeper today. It's a little more difficult. When Michael and I were married, we were very excited to start a family right away. We both love kids, and neither one of us were opposed to a family happening. Moved to Chicago and loved married life together. But as weeks turned into months, we began to realize something's not right, and so by the end of that year, we were asking questions. What do we do to find out? And when it comes to infertility, a lot of people won't see you until it's been a year, full 12 months. So we knew we had to wait a little while. And again, with the months turning into years now, and still no kids, we began to pursue answers, look for answers, and it turned out to be a lot more complicated of a journey than either of us anticipated. We found out there's no quick answers. There's so many factors, there's so many reasons, so many causes that could be in the factor for us. So we just started chipping away at it. I did testing, Michael did testing, and we went one step at a time. And after we would do one step, we'd have to save up for the next one. We can't just instantly go.
It's quite a process to go. You save up and then you go to the doctor and it's all of the emotions, and then you think this test may give us an answer. And so there's an element of hope with every test, every procedure, every blood draw. And then it's almost like you're back at ground zero every time. And like, well, that wasn't conclusive. So these are, the next steps.
It's really hard to describe the ups and downs of a journey like this, just because like Michael said, there is hope, there is anticipation, and every time it seemed like maybe we'll get an answer this time. And,
it's truly like a roller coaster, and you just don't know which way it's going to turn with every time. You get so excited that maybe this will be the answer, and then it's back at ground zero, and you saving up for the next option.
Right. And time is the factor here. You wait, you save up, you do a test, and when that's not conclusive, you got to wait to save up to do the next one. But there were a couple times where we realized this pursuit was really just, it was taking all our focus. It wasn't
all consuming.
It was all consuming. It wasn't drawing us apart, but there were definitely things where it was like, there was a lot of anxiety starting to play into it, just because we were so focused on it. So a couple times we're like, we just need a break. We just need to stop. We're not going to pursue the next test. The last several have not brought a conclusion to the matter. And so there were a couple times where we're just like, we need to stop. Of course, that drew the process out further. And all the while, we're praying. It's just like, God, we know you do miracles. We believe in you. We know you have the power to change our situation. Will you? It was I believe, a major challenge to both of our walks of faith. We both experienced challenges to degrees, and, we've seen God's faithfulness, or watched our parents or somebody else we knew, God bring them through things. And so there's that element of trust there. But it's a whole different ballgame when you're at a crossroads and it seems like you aren't getting an answer either way. And so it was a testing time. Michael especially just had questions, and I wanted to give her an answer, and I had not. I could be a listening ear, but I felt like that was about it. And it was a helpless feeling for an extended period of time. It's just, you want to, I'm a problem solver by nature. If there's a problem, I want to find a solution. Like, it's me in trouble more than not. But it's, if there's a problem, I want it to be done. I want it to be fixed. And so things are better to move on. And I could not solve this. I couldn't answer this. I couldn't resolve this problem. And that was frustrating.
I think the deepest valley for me, both emotionally and spiritually, was in this phase of so many unanswered questions, and one test after the next, and not really finding any answers, and wanting so bad to be a mom, and wondering what is life going to look like. And the emotions were excitement for every announcement you hear, but at the same time, such a deep grief for not being able to join in motherhood. It's a challenging thing because there are wild emotions that come with it, and you can experience the combination of joy and grief all at the same time combined. And that has been a lot of people's questions on social media. How do you deal with the grief? How do you deal with the mix of emotions? And then how do you deal with family? Having so many announcements. And I think that it's been a learning process. You rejoice, and then sometimes you may cry. And it's just, that's part of processing all the emotions. And God gave us emotions, and that's okay. But it is something that really is exciting, and every new life is precious. And I feel like my sisters and sister-in-laws have really helped in finding ways that are very healing and helpful to my heart, just letting me be part of gender reveals and baby showers and inviting me to their births. There's times I've said yes and times I've said no, and they've been gracious enough to include me, and I feel like that has really helped. I don't feel like I ever had feelings of wishing someone wasn't pregnant or dreading to see an announcement. I just wanted so badly to join. And from there, it also got very dark for me spiritually, because I had so many questions to why would God allow this? And to a point where I was reading my Bible because I knew it was right to do. I was praying because I knew it was right to do, but I was not enjoying my relationship with the Lord or my Christian walk, and it was just very, very lonely. It's not a subject that you can just open up and talk about or freely share, because you don't want to open the emotions and have the pain and the hurt. We were really there for each other because it was the one person we could talk to and share however you were feeling. But the pain was so deep, and the questions were so big, and the answers were completely absent. And I didn't feel like I could see God doing anything in our lives. And we had a lot of raw and honest conversations together. And I remember telling Brandon, like, I don't think God's hearing me. And I didn't feel like I could just say what I was thinking, because I felt like God was ignoring me. And we took a long walk through one of the parks nearby, and Brandon was like, God knows what you're thinking, but you have to tell him what you're feeling. You can be raw and honest with God. He invites us to share that and to come and let him carry it. And I think it was something that I had not previously done, because I had not been through something so painful. And I'm not sure why, but for some reason I didn't feel like it was okay to question God or to bring these types of grief and question for who God is. And Brandon was like, just be honest. Tell God what you're thinking. Tell God what you're thinking about him, and ask him to reveal himself to you. And it was a very hard thing to do, to come to God and to say, I'm upset at you and I don't understand, and I have all of these questions, and to be completely honest and to feel God's presence in that, and to not be pushed away, and to learn it's okay. And he doesn't mind that, and he's there to bring peace, and he's just waiting to show himself. Brandon encouraged me to make a list of all of the verses where God says something about himself, where his mercy endureth, where he is faithful, where he is the judge of all the earth, where he will do right, where he is love, where he is holy, where he is just, where he loves children, where he opens the womb. And in that process of probably 4 or 5 months, I began to see light again. And I just started praying, God, let me see you do something. It doesn't matter what it is, but let me see that you're still at work. Day by day, I started finding God to be real. I started seeing where he was providing. I started seeing answered prayers. I feel like the journey went from being in a deep, deep valley to coming up and to seeing where God was involved again, that his hand was on our life. And although we didn't have a conclusive answer and didn't know if or when we would have a conclusive answer, I began to see that God was involved again. And my quiet time changed. I went back to enjoying my time with the Lord, back to enjoying prayer, to seeing answered prayer on a weekly basis, being able to pray for other people and being able to pray for myself. I feel like I got my happiness back, and my love for babysitting, my enjoyment for being with kids. And instead of it being tears and discouragement every single day and feeling hopeless, there were still tears. There was still, every negative pregnancy test, every inconclusive doctor's visit. It brought sorrow, but it wasn't a bout of grief where I was like buried in sorrow. It was just, this is where we're at. This is the reality. It's okay to feel those emotions and to grieve. And then life would go back to seeing the joy and the beauty that God has given us in life.
But we did reach a point where we were approached by some dear friends from church who had been through this road. They understood where we were at, where we were coming from. They had walked this too, and they knew the pain of it all. And the wife came up to Michael and said she knew of a doctor that had helped them out. So we got on the waiting list. Mm-hmm. I forget how long it was. But
10 months.
Yeah, it was a long time before we were going to be able to see him. But anyway, we kind of got in a process. Maybe this guy can help us out. Maybe there's going to be answers here.
He was the most proactive doctor that I think I've ever been to personally. It was right around the time of COVID. And so our very first visit was over the phone, and he laid just everything out, and he scheduled testing for the very next week. And he did testing that had not been done before. He did all types of genetic testing and chromosomal testing. And for the first time, I felt like we had gone somewhere where he was hoping to get to the root of the issue, not just choose a random test out of a sheet of test list. And the doctor was pretty frank. And with the blood clotting disorders, that made me not a candidate for a lot of options.
So we're doing these different tests with this doctor, and very proactive, very helpful, and we really, really appreciated him a lot. But we reached a point, medically speaking, where it was like his nurse called us and said, at this point, there's nothing more we can do. It was like a brick wall just hit us in the face. That was a really hard phone call to get. It seemed like, we finally found a doctor that was going to help us. And he did. Yeah, I mean, he was so helpful.
It was such a hard phone call. But at the same time, it was almost an answer to prayer because it was an answer. I felt like it wasn't me questioning, am I doing something wrong? Am I not healthy enough? Am I not exercising enough? Am I not taking the right supplements? And it was just, it was a closed door that gave me peace of mind to know you've done what you can do, and there's nothing more you can do.
It was really crazy though, when we hit that brick wall. We got in the car, we drove out to the lake and just cried our eyes out. It was so crazy what happened in that moment because, and I verbalized this to Michael, it was just like, we have the answer down here, and it's a no. But with God, it doesn't have to be. As far as the doctors are concerned, this is a no for us. But God can still do something if he wants to. And so we left the lake, still grieved about the news. It didn't take that away. But we didn't know at that point, in that moment, in the car, at the lake, grieving together, that Michael had actually already gotten pregnant. Right?
Mm-hmm.
At that point.
Yep.
And we wouldn't find out till the next week.
Yep. A year and a half earlier, I had walked through the darkness spiritually where I felt like I trusted God. If it was a no, he had to have something better for us because he does good and he does right. And if it's not that we're going to have children naturally, then he has a different plan for us. And having that closure from the doctor gave me a peace that I've done what I need to do and I can rest. It was a relief. Like, I'm not a failure. God made me, and he made me the way that he did. I can't change that. And for some reason he allowed this. He must have something bigger. I would have never guessed that I was pregnant in that moment.
Yeah, we ended up going on a work trip, and we were staying in a room there, and I come back from working one day and she's sobbing in the bathroom, and I mean sobbing. I was like, oh no, what's going on? Is she hurt? So I ran right in there to see what was wrong.
I had taken hundreds of pregnancy tests at this point. We had just been told, like, I'm not going to get pregnant, but for some reason, I felt like I needed to take a pregnancy test, and I did. And it was instantly positive. For 5 years, I had planned all these creative ways that I could tell Brandon I was pregnant one day. I think I had an announcement stored in a little box for every possible season of baby, and had never used them, had never gotten a positive test, and I was completely shook. I couldn't do anything but cry. No cute announcements. I just laid on the floor crying, and he came in the bathroom, and I showed him a positive test, and I don't think you'd ever seen a positive test. So he's like,
What's that?
What is that? And I said, we're going to have a baby. And he said, he just looked at me.
Just last week, the doctor told us this isn't possible. I think you're reading this wrong. Because I'm the one that didn't know how to read them. But
I was on cloud 9. We immediately called the doctor. He wasn't quite sure what to think, I don't think. The nurse said, let me have somebody call you back. And they called me right back, and they said, we need you to go in for blood testing. And so we looked up the closest lab, and we immediately went. And they called back within a few hours, and they said, you're pregnant, and you need to come home. For the next few weeks, we had the happiest days of our life.
Okay, love. Tell me where we're at, what we're doing.
We are on the way to our very first baby appointment.
tell me what you just found out.
I'm definitely pregnant.
You got a little baby growing in you? Backing up a few months previous, when we were able to see this doctor that the friend from church recommended, he had actually said, with the disorders you have, we're gonna see if, a pregnancy can happen with you guys. But if it does, you just be mentally prepared. It may miscarry because of the blood disorders, right?
In the moment of being pregnant, it didn't actually cross my mind that there was a chance of losing the baby, just because it seemed like such a miracle. It can't happen. It's not happened for 5 years, and now I'm pregnant. And so I guess that conversation had just been shifted to the back of my mind, and there was nothing but happiness.
Okay, love, tell me where we're going.
We're going for our first ultrasound to see our baby.
Okay, love, tell me where we're at.
We're in the doctor, and this is almost our ultrasound.
We got home and went to the doctor, and they confirmed pregnancy. Yup. But
It was such a happy day.
She was elated. She had gone to heaven, I think. She felt
I
like
had dreamed of experiencing that all my life, and it was our ultrasound and our baby. And
Okay, what are we doing, love?
We're taking pictures to announce to our families. We took pictures with a sign and now little baby outfits.
Little baby outfits? Oh.
It's so cute.
And it was fun thinking about, different, how we were going to tell my parents, how we were going to tell her parents. And okay, love, tell me what we're about to do.
We're about to tell your mom and dad, and I'm so excited I can hardly wait.
Here we go.
one isn't from me. This is from one of the, like, some of the kids out of town, and they wanted me to present it to you.
Some of the kids out of town.
The out of towners.
Kitty! What is this?
Here, just take it.
I love these memories.
It was just really special and it stunned everybody. But it was real and it was happening, and we were able to
So
share the
happy.
news. And
Now, the secret is actually on the back.
Flip it over, let's see.
Here
we go. New baby.
And you peel off the back. Okay, so each one you peel off. No. Come on.
Get them together.
Nuh-uh. Peel it off.
New
Wait,
baby,
what?
here it comes.
Nuh-uh. Peel it off.
it was really neat to be able to share it with her family, with my family, and rejoice together, but also pray together because we weren't out of the woods.
We had seen our baby, and it was a little girl, and it was just, I think in some ways God had allowed that element of fear just not to be there, and I enjoyed every single day of being pregnant. When we went back for an ultrasound and there wasn't a heartbeat, it was shocking. And at that point, I feel like the memories and the warnings had come back. It was the height of joy back to a deep grief. But this grief was so different than what I had experienced previously, because over the past 2.5 years, God had become so real to me, and so He had done so many things to show me that He was there, that while the grief is still real, it's definitely the grief and the sorrow of walking through and talking about her, and thinking about what life would have been like and how old she would be and what Christmases would be like with her. I haven't been back to a place where there was a doubt of who God is and that He's here and that He's going to be with us. So this was a different type of grieving, a much more bearable grieving, because there's a hope of heaven and knowing that we'll be here one day. At this point, we had different counseling with our pastor and his wife that was very helpful in learning how to grieve and realizing that we will grieve differently.
It was hard on Michael, but it really seemed like her darker valley happened in Chicago. You know, years prior to that, my valley came at that point. It's like God has finally answered the prayer that we've been praying for years. Then our little girl went away. It's like, I had a lot of questions after that point. You don't seem like a good God right now. You don't seem like you're doing the right thing right now. And I don't know what to do with this.
All the same feelings that I feel like I was walking through previously.
And it's just like, it was like I was saying, I want you to give her to me. You know, obviously, you know, she's in heaven now. She's in a much safer place, you know, and we will meet her one day. But emotionally, you still want to hold on. And it was just like God was giving grace in that moment to let her go. God, you know best. I am giving her to you, and He gave me grace. It's this compensation from God spiritually that it's just like he gave me something that I can't explain, and it brought peace to my heart. That it's just like, she's safe with God, and I'm gonna leave it with that. We still miss her, we wish she was here, and it still brings us to tears, but it's just like, but yet there's an element of God's grace. He's giving us something to go on, to keep trusting him.
I think for me, the joy of getting to experience pregnancy and know I was carrying a little girl to tell people I'm a mom, to get to experience a Mother's Day. Only our family and closest friends knew at the time. But I feel like that joy was so much bigger than the grief. It's been hard since, because it has been several years, and I get my hopes up every month. I know that if God did a miracle once, he can do it again. And it's just something that learning to navigate with where we're at and what is our reality right now, and learning to thrive where we're planted in this moment has been a pursuit.
I will say this, Michael has a very big heart, and so she hasn't been able to pour that into kids that we have, but she's been pouring it to multiple others wherever she can find them, whether that be
I love them.
nieces and nephews or kids at Children's Hospital. It does bring questions too. It's like, well, God, if not this avenue, or at least not for now, is there another avenue to pursue? And I feel like that's where we're at right now is, is there somebody else out there that you would have for us, to love, and for them to love us? And, that's not a quick journey. It's not simple and easy. And so we're taking that one step at a time, and we'll see what that pursuit turns into. Until then, just taking every opportunity we have to help those we can and love those we can. And
to be in the cuddling program, to get to be at Children's Hospital every week. It's just something that brightens our hearts to be with kids. And like Brandon said, it is something that's been on our hearts, but it's not been something that the door has swung open to. There's a lot of hurdles, and if you've been through adoption, you understand the process. Just praying that God will make it very clear what his plan for us is.
Yeah. That's a bit of our journey, what we've walked through for the past 8+ years now, and we wouldn't have chosen this. It's been a soul-searching time, and am I going to follow him on the sunny days only? What's going to happen when the rainy days come? And I was surprised when the storms came how uncertain I was at certain points.
Me too. I think going through a point where there's that many questions about God, and then learning that you can go to him with all your questions and he doesn't hesitate to reveal himself. Like, he's there. He's not afraid of being asked hard questions. Then going through loss and realizing that God has not asked us to do anything that he didn't go through. He felt sorrow and he wept. He wept at Lazarus' tomb when his friend died. And then God the Father, who gave up his own son on the cross. And just realizing that I'm not alone in this. And every emotion that I'm feeling, God himself felt. He walked everything that I'm walking through. And I think that perspective has changed a lot for me.
God, you took somebody away from us that was dear to our hearts, but if you are who you say you are, you're going to do something greater because of this. The story's not finished. This isn't the last chapter. But I can say from the bottom of my heart, God is good. He knows what he's doing, and we're going to trust him. We're going to look to him, and we're going to keep knocking on doors to see what he opens for us.